be fruits and vegetables, right? And some tubers, which are potato type things. Okay. What they didn't eat was any processed food, obviously, duh. They didn't eat any grain because they weren't being grown yet. And they didn't eat any beans because those also weren't being harvested. And they didn't eat any industrialized oils from those grains. Okay? So those are three things, or four things, that make up most of our diet today. So from about 40,000 years ago up to about 10,000 years ago, this is the period of the healthiest humans ever to exist. About 10,000 years ago, we started getting shorter, we started getting fatter, and our brain shrunk. Anybody know what happened about 10,000 years ago? Yeah, well, grains. We started growing grains. We started transferring from a hunter-gatherer society to an agrarian society where we started growing our own food. Okay? So it's at this point we started getting fatter, sicker, and our brain shrunk, so I guess I could say dumber, but I don't know that for sure. And from here to here, we just kept on getting sicker up till about 50 to 70 years ago, and it took a nosedive. To the point where today, the human beings are the sickest species of animals on the planet. Okay. So, my question to you is, do we look at life's operating instructions for our genetics, or do we keep on living this lifestyle that's incongruent with our genetics and try to force health into it? Anybody have a guess on what the right answer would be?
First.
Yeah. Obviously, we want to learn from the wisdom of our ancestors, right? And so that's what these principles are going to teach us, how to live by the wisdom of our ancestors, and also how to mitigate some of the stresses that we're exposed to that they quite simply weren't. Okay? It's all clear to everybody so far? Okay, so a little bit of inspiration. I just told you that we're not going to be eating many grains, many processed sugars, etc. Okay, that sucks, right? I'll just be honest. But this guy over here on your right, his name is Mark Sisson. When this picture is taken, he's 57 years old. Looks like he can do a load of laundry on his stomach, right? 57 years old. This guy on the left here, who looks like Superman's healthier grandpa, is Art DeVaney. He's 74 years old in this picture. And so people that live this lifestyle consistently look pretty typically like this. Okay? Mark's been living this lifestyle for about 16 years. Art's been living this lifestyle for about 30 years. I'm just going to show you a quick 5-minute video on Art that I just think is so inspirational. And the beginning is kind of hard to hear because it goes kind of fast, but he hasn't been sick in about 30 years, okay? And he has a body composition of a 22-year-old. He's 72 years old.
This is Art DeVaney. He's 73 years old, has the body composition of a 22-year-old, hasn't been sick in 30 years, and is married to Carmela. He's regarded as the grandfather of the modern paleo movement, and calls himself a 21st century caveman. Even though he favors an Armani suit and is an influential economist, and wrote the book on Hollywood economics 30 years ago when his son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, he went on a mission to help his child by learning everything he could about metabolism and how it affects health and longevity. He used his research skills and statistical models to track how different foods affect insulin levels. He made a revolutionary discovery that changed their lives and will change yours.
The human body hasn't changed in 40,000 years. That means our genes haven't changed, and that they simply have to express themselves in an environment that they find very strange compared to the environment in which they evolved through the ice ages. Command and control that is simply not work. It causes stress. Every time you think about food, you also release insulin, so constantly thinking about the many meals you're going to eat causes you to actually become hungry, strangely enough. If you want to live a long time, and you want to be lean, one of the things you have to do right away is learn how to control your insulin. Turns out this is a simple thing to do. once your body composition hits the right level, your insulin will properly send nutrients where they belong, not to your fat cell, but to your brain, your muscle, and your nervous system. You can do that by simply taking note of the kind of foods that you eat and gradually eliminating the offending carbohydrates. You can do this yourself by testing your own blood sugar, or you can simply start with the original human diet that all humans eat for 3 million years or so. That means you start with the basic food groups that are available during the Paleolithic. In other words, vegetables, lean meats, seafood, fruits, although sparing because modern fruits are rather sugary, topped off with nuts and then some wonderful spices for antioxidants and flavor. This is an example of the kind of foods that we eat on the New Revolution diet. We begin usually with vegetables as a base for the foods we eat. So we have asparagus and spinach here. Loads of celery for the texture and the crunch that people miss when they start giving up bread. Artichoke hearts also, which are wonderfully fibrous. Olives, and then, of course, prepared chicken, lots of garlic, lightly grilled in the pan. Salmon, which is the prime food that we tend to eat. We love salmon, lots of it. And it's all topped off with fresh fruits.
Remind me of a couple things there.
Advice on diet and fitness is rather disappointing.
And that is that I said our genes stopped evolving 40,000 years ago, but what I should emphasize is that our genes are exactly the same as they were 40,000 years ago. So we don't have to move our genes back into the Paleolithic area because they never left. Okay? So the minute we start eating properly, that's when we start eating healthy. And he also touched on a couple things too, which we're going to get into, which is that this is based off of the wisdom of our hunter-gatherer ancestors, but it's also based on some pretty cutting-edge science. It's just that, for me, it's easy to look at the healthy people and just try to figure out what happened, right? Just to model their behavior. Okay. So this is the pyramid we're going to be going over. The base of it is purpose. The next is the nervous system, balance and hormones, exercise, sufficiency and deficiency, and health. Purpose is the base of the pyramid. There's two types of people in the world. There's people that are driven by pain and pleasure and people that are driven by purpose. The reason purpose is the base of this pyramid is because nothing in life ever happens without a purpose for it to happen. Okay? The most important thing that we have to change our lifestyle is a purpose. Let me give you an example of the first type of person that's driven by pain and pleasure. A good example to give you would be me, right? And we've all been here too. So somebody that's driven by pain and pleasure only makes a change if the pleasure that they get from it outweighs the pain that getting it causes. Okay, so I used to wake up, believe it or not, at 6 in the morning and go work out. Okay, and I thought I wanted to be a little bit healthier. I wanted to weigh a little bit less. Okay, so waking up at 6 in the morning, my eyes would open up and there was a beautiful woman laying next to me, my wife. My wife, I just want to.
Yeah. That's good question.
And the bed was nice and warm and cozy. And it was dark outside, and it was cold outside, and my tennis shoes were cold, and my car was cold, and the gym was a long ways away, and I had to drive there in the dark, and so the pain of doing all that outweighed the pleasure that I would have gotten from being a little bit fitter, right? So I pushed the snooze button, or I shut my alarm off, or I reset my alarm. Has anybody ever done that? Actually reset your alarm?
Yeah.
I'm not the only one. Okay, so that was the old model. That's the model we all try to make change in. Okay, versus the purpose-driven model, where I figured out a purpose that actually drives me. Okay, so my purpose is to enjoy the life that God gave me with abundant joy and abundant health. It's also to be a role model for my son. It's also to be a role model for my patients. Okay, that's very powerful. So now, believe it or not, I get up at 5:30 to work out. My eyes open, and I'm still laying next to the same beautiful woman. The bed is still nice and cuddly warm. Still cold outside, still dark outside. My shoes are still cold. My car is still cold. The gym is still a long ways away. But when my eyes open, I think, all right, I'm going to be a role model for my son. I want to be a role model for my patients. And I want to enjoy this life that God gave me with abundant health and abundant joy. And you know, my eyes stay open when I get out of bed. So it not only acts as good motivation, it also acts as a compass. Because it points me back to where I need to go if I get off track. Okay? A good thing that gets most of us off track is something that's joyous called the holidays. Okay, so the holidays I was off track, and when I come back, I just look at that purpose, I look at that compass, and it points me back.